Hi, I am Kira Redenberg. I am a licensed master social worker in LMSW and a primary therapist here at Sierra Tucson. And I'm going to be presenting today on positive psychology, what it is, and how it can help. So, as I'm going through this, I'm going to turn off my webcam and I'll bring it back on at the end to answer your questions. So, let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to turn this off now. All right. So, positive psychology. It is a field of psychology, and it is focused on really the strengths that we each bring to the table. So it's a strengths-based approach that encourages individuals to explore the positive and meaningful experiences that they've had in their lives. Whereas traditional talk therapy can have an emphasis on the negative impact that past events may have had in their lives, positive psychology shifts that focus to our perceived strengths and the ways that our past can help us to move forward into a place of thriving rather than surviving. So in this webinar, we'll begin to explore the roots of positive psychology, what it looks like, and how it can be helpful in a therapeutic setting. First, we're going to go through some of the people who brought positive psychology to the forefront. So the proponents of this field, one of which is Christopher Peterson. He was a professor of psychology and organizational studies at the University of Michigan, and also a senior fellow at the Positive Psychology Center. He was one of the giants in the world of positive psychology, and he and Martin Seligman, who we're going to talk about in just a minute, wrote the book Character, Virtues, and Strengths. Next, we have a researcher, Mihai Csikszentmihalyi, and he is a distinguished professor of psychology and management at Claremont Graduate University and the founder and co-director at the Quality of Life Research Center, which is a nonprofit research institute that studies positive psychology. He and Martin Seligman have also worked together on the study of positive psychology, having published several articles. And then next up is Martin Seligman. He is the director of the Penn Positive Psychology Center and Zellerbach Family Professor of Psychology in the Penn Department of Psychology. He also was president of the American Psychological Association in 1998, and during that time, one of his initiatives was the promotion of positive psychology as a field of scientific study. So he is considered by many people to be the founder of positive psychology, and he has devoted his career since the year 2000 to furthering the study of positive emotion, positive character traits, and positive institutions. So while the field of positive psychology is being and also has been studied by many professionals, what we're going to focus on here is the work of Dr. Seligman. So why do we study this? Why positive psychology? I like this quote that Seligman has about why we do this. And he says, the very good news is there is quite a number of internal circumstances under your voluntary control. If you decide to change them, and be warned that none of these changes come without real effort, your level of happiness is likely to increase lastingly. So we all go through difficult experiences, some of us definitely more than others, and also it's still possible to experience higher levels of happiness. There is a feeling of empowerment that can come with recognizing that there are things we can do to help ourselves feel happier, that there are components of this that are within our control, and that our ability to find enjoyment in life is not completely at the mercy of our circumstances. So within positive psychology, there's 5 pillars that Dr. Seligman has put a lot of time and research into. And so he has a theory of well-being, which is an attempt to answer the question of what enables human flourishing. These 5 pillars are positive emotion, engagement, relationships, meaning, and accomplishment. And we're going to briefly review each of these and discuss their importance in building happier and more fulfilling lives. So first up is positive emotion. This pillar obviously focuses on increasing positive emotion, and to a certain extent, it's possible to increase positive emotions and feelings about, 1, the past, and we do this by practicing gratitude for good things that have happened, or working towards forgiveness for negative experiences. We can increase positive feelings about the present by practicing mindfulness and really savoring pleasurable moments or experiences as they happen. And we can also increase positive feelings about the future by allowing ourselves to feel hopeful and practice optimism by imagining best case scenarios versus something that we often do, catastrophizing when we look at the worst possible thing that could happen. It is important to note that unlike the other pillars that we're going to explore in just a minute, we're limited in how much we can experience positive emotions. The ability to feel positive emotions is partly heritable, meaning that how positive we're able to feel is partly dependent on our genetics and will fluctuate within a given range. There are people who, by disposition, feel less positivity than others. Often our idea of what happiness looks like is focused on positivity. So knowing that there actually are other ways to increase happiness can also be empowering. The next pillar is engagement. So we've got this little graphic up here that shows how we experience challenges and our abilities within those challenges. So how well we can do them. And we know that we experience engagement when we fully use our strengths, our skills, and attention to complete a challenging task. So the researcher that we talked about earlier, Mihai Csikszentmihalyi, posits that this produces an experience called flow. And flow happens when the level of a challenge is high, but so is our ability to complete that challenge successfully. He says that flow is so gratifying that people are willing to do it for its own sake rather than for what they will get out of it. So flow is what we experience when we're completely concentrated on what we're doing in the moment, so much so that we can have a distorted perception of time, and it kind of feels like time has stopped. Some ways that we experience these flow states are maybe having a good conversation, completing certain work tasks, playing a musical instrument, reading a book, writing, gardening, playing sports, anything that really keeps us in the moment and focused. The next pillar is relationships. So we know how important relationships are to our life, to our well-being, and the things that contribute to our well-being, such as laughter and a feeling of belonging and pride, are also amplified in relationship. The connections we build give our lives meaning and purpose, whether that's through important friendships or romantic relationships or our families. Having meaningful connections is one of the things that can help us when we're feeling down. Having significant relationships also helps us to maintain or build our capacity for things like love, compassion, kindness, empathy, teamwork, cooperation, self-sacrifice, and all of those things also help to increase our well-being. The fourth purpose is meaning. I really like this quote by Norman Vincent Peale that says, the more you lose yourself in something bigger than yourself, the more energy you'll have. So we find a sense of meaning through belonging to or identifying with something that's bigger, larger, and outside of ourselves. Examples of belonging to something that is bigger than ourselves include religion, family, science, politics, work organizations, justice, community, social causes, all of those things that we kind of identify with being part of. And the last pillar is accomplishment. As humans, it's natural for us to pursue achievement, success, mastery. Finding that achievement is also something that helps us with our well-being. We can find success and achievement through things like work, sports, games, hobbies, and it's interesting that people pursue accomplishment even when it doesn't necessarily lead to positive emotions, meaning or relationships. So it's something that we look for is to have that kind of sense of success. The benefits of positive psychology are something that's also interesting. So we can actually have an impact on our physiological health depending on our mindset. There is an NCBI study that shows that inducing positive emotions actually speeds cardiovascular recovery following a stressful event. So if we go through some kind of heart-related issue and we have more of a positive mindset, we can go through that healing process faster than if we're more negatively skewed. Psychosocial resilience training, targeting positive emotions, cognitive flexibility, social support, life meaning, and active coping also reduces total cholesterol among middle-aged adults. And the last, well, not the last benefit, but the last one I have listed here is that with positive psychology, we focus on the strengths rather than the struggles. So we look at the things that are working rather than the things that are considered to be quote unquote broken. And there are different interventions that we can use within the field of positive psychology as well. So if you're working with clients or people that you think that might benefit from this realm, you can use these different activities or exercises with them. One is to identify character strengths. And some of those strengths could include curiosity, kindness, bravery, perseverance, hope, gratitude, teamwork, humility, fairness. So all of those things that are kind of innate within us, we want to figure out how we can really cultivate those things that we already have and build them more into our everyday lives. The second intervention we have listed here is a gratitude practice. So that's when we identify something every day that you're grateful for. And when I do this with my clients that I work with, I ask them to list 3 to 5 things that are new every day. So either an experience, something that they've seen, whatever they felt grateful for uniquely that day, as part of either their morning or their evening routine so that they can keep it up consistently. The next 2 are interventions that Dr. Seligman actually did a lot of research around and has findings that support that these are actually helpful. And so one is writing 3 good things that happen each day. So similar to a gratitude practice, this is when we write about 3 positive things that have happened in our own life that day, and we continue this every day consistently. So in the same veins as the gratitude practice, we want to keep this up because the more that we do it, the more that we start to notice those positive experiences. The next is to use our signature strengths in a new way. So looking at those signature strengths that we listed before, curiosity, kindness, bravery, etc., and intentionally choosing ways that you can incorporate those into your life in new ways each day, or maybe choosing a new one that you can try every day. And so that is a way that we are able to, again, look at our strengths and really highlight those rather than focusing on the things that we might think we're doing wrong or we would want to change about ourselves. So really focusing on the resilience and the strength that we have. Another exercise we can use is the beautiful day activity. And that's when we use savoring and mindfulness to craft a beautiful day and enhance the pleasures of the experience then. And we can do this either through visualizing, maybe writing, or you can actually plan out what that beautiful day would look like and then act on that. And the last one that we have here is a gratitude visit. So this is when we write a 300-word testimonial or letter to someone that you're grateful for, and then read it to them, send it to them, let them know the way that we feel grateful for them and having them in our lives. So I really like to use these with my residents, my clients that I work with, especially when they're having a hard time, because either focusing on their strengths or focusing on the gratitudes that they have helps to break up that mindset and give them a different perspective. So we can use this for people that we work with, we can use this for ourselves. I find it to be very helpful. Like anything else, we do also have criticisms for positive psychology. And one is that it focuses on positive experiences, and that could be at the expense of acknowledging the necessary uncomfortable or negative experiences. So we know that we all go through difficult times, like I said at the beginning, and we don't want to diminish that. We don't want to just kind of put that to the side and not address it. We do want to still acknowledge those uncomfortable feelings, uncomfortable or difficult situations, the traumas we've been through. And some people see positive psychology as not giving those experiences the time that they deserve. And that takes us into our next criticism, which is that positive psychology could negate or invalidate the experiences of people who come from difficult backgrounds and could be prone to more difficult situations. So looking at, if we have been through traumas, depending on our socioeconomic status, what our life situation is, we might have a harder time holding on to positive psychology because there's so much adversity that we face. And so some people see positive psychology as not giving that the space that it deserves. And the last is that positive psychology can be viewed as toxic positivity, in that it might not make that space for the negative experiences and emotions that people have and need to process. And so we don't want to negate or invalidate those things that have happened or the feelings that we have that are really difficult. We don't want to just say, like, be happy, put a smile on, and don't worry about it, it's going to be okay. We still want to address all of those uncomfortable things. We also do want to highlight the strengths, the resilience, what people are bringing to the table that actually is working for them. So in my view, we can hold both of those at the same time, which means, for me at least, that positive psychology doesn't have to be looked at as toxic positivity. So I've got some closing thoughts, and I've got a quote here from Martin Seligman. And he says, if we just wanted positive emotions, our species would have died out a long time ago. And I like that because it's really pointing to the idea that positive psychology isn't just about feeling good. It's about using everything that we can to help build ourselves up. And so that not only helps us to feel happy and feel those positive emotions, it helps us to have a better sense of well-being. The positive psychology is sometimes looked down upon for being the Pollyanna of the fields of psychology, the one that looks for everything that's going right when there is so much that could be or also is going wrong. Also, while it's important to notice the difficult realities in life, it's equally important to make note of the ways in which we're all capable of thriving. So again, holding both of those things at the same time, not just looking at the negative and not just looking at the positive, but making the space for both of those things. It's also important that clients are aware that there is a realm of psychology that focuses on the positive, because so much of the time people see psychologists, psychiatrists, therapists as people who are trying to quote unquote fix them, and this can be a barrier to people seeking treatment in the first place. So I know that a lot of people that I work with, the clients that I work with, come in and feel a certain kind of way about having to look at all of this negativity, all of this trauma, and that can be kind of disheartening because it's overwhelming when we start to see how much we've been through. And for some people that can feel really empowering and helpful to see like, wow, I've been through so much and I'm still here. And then for other people, it can be really disheartening to see like, wow, I've been through so much. I shouldn't have had to do that. And so with positive psychology, we're able to help them to see that, yes, you have been through a lot, and that's not all we're going to focus on. We're going to focus on what you're capable of. And so that's something that I really appreciate about this field. So next, we have our references. So here are the different books, articles, and websites that I've pulled from. So if you would like to get more information, I definitely encourage you to go look those up. They're very helpful. And questions. Any questions that anyone has? Let's take a look. Okay, so I'm going to turn my webcam back on. Okay, there we go. So, one question, are there specific populations that would benefit from positive psychology? I don't necessarily think there's specific populations that would benefit. I use this, I work specifically with adults, mainly adults with mood issues, so depression, anxiety, and then also trauma. I work with a lot of people who've been through really traumatic situations. And these interventions are something that I use with all of those people because it is really strengths-based. And that's an approach that I take in the work that I do, is focusing on the strengths, focusing on what people are able to do rather than just focusing on the trauma. So I think that it's something that can be helpful for really any population. The next question, is this something that can be used for people who have depression? Absolutely. Like I said, I work often, actually always, with people who have depression, anxiety, things like that. And again, this is something that I find to be helpful for all of those different people because there's just a different mindset that we take on when we start to look through this lens rather than looking at how difficult something has been, how much adversity we've been through. So I like this for people who are coming in with a depressed or diagnosis of depression, because we start to expand what the focus is. Also, when we are experiencing depression, we have a negative bias. So we're already looking at what's going wrong. And this helps us to shift that and to open up more space and hold room for what things are going right as well. Last question, I think. If someone has experienced a lot of trauma, can positive psychology still be helpful? Again, yes. I do recognize that there are a lot of different things that we all go through. We each have our own unique experience. And also, I think that this can still be a helpful field. So looking at positive psychology as an intervention and a field that can be used with people who have trauma, PTSD, I think that it is still a beneficial way to go, because we're highlighting resilience, highlighting strength, and allowing people to see that they're not just their trauma. They also have all of these things that they bring to the table that are inherent within themselves. So that is my answer to that question. Let me see if we've got any more. So what specific positive psychology strategies could we use in depression and generalized anxiety disorder? The intervention that I go to most often is probably the gratitude practice, because it challenges the anxiety, it challenges the depression, because some of the stories that we tell ourselves, that our clients tell ourselves when we are depressed or anxious, is that nothing is ever going to be okay. I'm not okay. The world is a scary place. And so looking at those pieces of gratitude, looking at how I am able to feel more positive emotions throughout the day, allows us to start to fight back and to challenge those beliefs that the world is scary and bad, and those different things that come up with these anxieties, so or depression. So I do go to the gratitude practice often. Probably something that I use. Actually, I think it's something that I use with all of my clients. So that's the one that I really come back to. Let's see, next question is, positive psychology and self-compassion seem to be good companions when it comes to the activities associated. Any thoughts or recommendations on those exercises? Yes, so positive psychology and self-compassion definitely do go hand in hand, because it really is looking at the things that we appreciate about ourselves, and self-compassion plays a large role in that. And so let's see, thoughts or recommendations. I would say any of those activities would be helpful. I think that, again, gratitude, it's a theme through positive psychology, and I also see it being really beneficial in self-compassion as well. And then also the character strengths, looking at our unique strengths, looking at what we do have to offer, is something that really pairs those two nicely. And so that is another one that I would definitely go to when I'm helping someone to build their sense of self-compassion. Let's see. All right, the last question is going to be, is reframing a concept in positive psychology? I would say yes. I don't know that I came across that in the research that I've done specifically, but looking at positive psychology and CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, I would definitely say that there's overlap between those two, and reframing is huge in CBT. It's one of the things that I also do with all of my clients, and that really helps, again, to challenge those negative beliefs, challenge the negative automatic thoughts, And I could definitely see that being something that's a commonality between both positive psychology and CBT. So I think that reframing would also be a fit. So we are coming up to our time, so I'm going to leave it there. But thank you so much for being here. Again, my name is Kira Brandenburg. I am an LMSW and primary therapist here at Sierra Tucson. And my email is here on the screen. So if you have any questions, comments, feel free to reach out and let me know. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate it.